you all refresh your energy, it'll help everything.
All right, I think we are live again. And Eric, when you see it on YouTube, just let me know. You might need to refresh the page.
I'm on Facebook.
Sorry, that's what I meant.
1 second. I do see it.
All right. Okay.
Go for it.
All right. Hello again, everyone. Sorry about that. A little technical glitch here. They always seem to come up at the most inopportune times. If this happens again, if the stream goes down, just want you to know that there will be a replay that's posted both on Facebook and YouTube and on our website. So you will get access to the replay later. So we'll cross our fingers and hope that all goes well. But Guy, you were in the middle of talking about why one would even engage in the process of transformation. And
why would a person be interested in what our present knowledge calls this idea of transformation? And what I had alluded to, what I said, was that there comes a certain point where we are unable, with what we want or don't want, to bring an end to this feeling that is with us almost all the time. And most of us aren't aware of how we are constantly visited by a certain sense of disturbance in the center of us that is always looking for what it wants to get rid of that feeling, or what it has to do so that it can augment or change that feeling. The problem is that wanting and not wanting, which is all we know how to live from. You ever really examine yourself? You ever really watch your mind? It just never stops talking to you about what it needs, what it wants, where it's going, what it's going to do. It is an endless chattering that we take to be ourselves, because at some point it'll stumble on something that seems to be significant as something to do or not do, and therefore my life will be transformed. The problem with that level of transformation, which is where most human beings live, is that nothing's transformed. Everything's just reinvented, refurbished, and I get to do it again. So there's an actual point at which a person reaches. Imagine for a moment some man, he's an archaeologist, an explorer, and he's got a small entourage with him because he's quite known, sort of an Indiana Jones type person. Mm-hmm. And he's out there, and they think they've found this lost tomb in which will be this special jewel that just to look at it or hold it makes you immortal. I'm setting the stage.
Okay.
And it's encrusted with gold and silver and diamonds. And so they're there and they're, cleaning away. Have you ever watched the archaeologists with their little, who could do that? You sit there for 3 days with a toothbrush, do that. Boom, open. Yeah. Anyway, he's there. And then as they get closer and there's an inscription starts to show up on top of this carved piece of wood on top of whatever it is, little by little, the chief archaeologist shows up later and later to work. And one of the guys that works with him finally says, look, you were so pumped. Why are you coming late and later and later and doing less and less work? And he says, because I think I know what the inscription says on top of the chest. Well, what does it say? It says, what you're looking for isn't here. So the head guy says to him, well, that means, why is that a problem? He says, what do you mean, why is it a problem? We just spent 18 years reading all these old books. This is a spiritual metaphor. I hope you understand. And I'm just about to uncover it, and it's pretty clear. What I'm looking for isn't here. Now, you would think that he would be the one who would say, well, you know what? Look on the bright side of things. What could possibly be the bright side of all this work that leads me to something that says what you're looking for isn't here? He says, well, now you know where not to look.
Right. Yeah, I feel like, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
I feel like that moment, I can remember a moment like that in my own life.
You have to have 1,000 moments like that, Katie. Because the definition of the seeker is that he or she believes that what they are looking for, and therefore what they want, is going to bring an end to their sense of being alone and afraid and dissatisfied. And there has to come, and there does come, if a man or a woman is earnest and honest with their work, they will almost daily come to a point where they realize that, well, what I'm looking for isn't here. And then, because of the way in which the divine works, there dawns a certain kind of epiphany. And what dawns in that man or woman as they go through that over and over again, and I might add, delaying seeing what that says. I mean, you run into moments where you see this was for naught. That's the last thing you want to see. But there does come a point where a person realizes, if I knew what I was looking for, I would have found it a long time ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's in every scripture, every master, every true enlightened human being who's ever walked the planet basically says the same thing over and over and over again. And that is that what you're looking for is what you want. And what you want belongs to who you have been. And who you have been cannot find an answer to itself, or it would have found it a long time ago. So it simply keeps reinventing the next thing that it wants. And at some point, a person has to actually understand the problem isn't with wanting or not wanting. The problem is that the nature itself involved in this seeking that doesn't want to see what's written on the wall, it is impossible to satisfy it. It can never know what it's looking for. It might know time and time again moments where, there's a piece of gold left underneath, but it never can come to an end of itself. And so when you really understand that the solution cannot be provided by a sense of self that is forever trying to complete itself, then it throws you into a kind of a crucible where you actually realize that what I'm looking for, as difficult as it is to describe, I can't know. Because everything that I do know leads me to some relationship where I have a very distinct sense of I. Now I'm a spiritual person. Now I know the Bible. Now I can speak Sanskrit. I've had Shaktipat. I'm all opened up. Whatever it is, 1,000 different ways in which that part of ourselves goes through this cycle over and over again. All of our energy, as we're talking about transformation, all of our energy vested in trying to acquire what we want, right, and get rid of what we don't. And so all of that energy that is meant to be used for something else is squandered, like the prodigal son. Now, how does that change?
Well, I have a quick question.
Sure.
First. So, I'm born into this body that has an expiration date, as you used recently, right? It has an expiration date, and we're literally born into, this thinking that I'm here to have experiences and collect things and possess things and chase after things, pursue things, and now we're talking about something which intersects that, in the same way that you would talk about passing time versus what's eternal. So that's the moment, like it
is, and I'm all for these ideas. As I go along myself, I look back at some of the ideas that I have instrumented, and I know they're accurate, but they're incomplete. And they're not incomplete in the fact of them, they're incomplete in the fact that we can't understand them. But what we can understand, and anybody can understand this, is, what do I suffer over?
Well, I suffer over everything that's on this line.
No, forget the lines. Throw the lines away.
Well, but that's what it seems like.
Well, but what is that line? Over what do I suffer? This is this is why we have to have talks, because we don't want to see it. I suffer over what I want.
Right.
Period. End of story. That's what passing time is.
Something that I'm never getting, that I never
Passing
get to
time
it.
is the distance between the sense I have of being incomplete and empty and the time when I imagine I won't be anymore. That's psychological time. That is that line. But a person has to eventually get to the point where they realize, you know what? If I suffer over what I want because I don't get it, and then I do get what I want and my suffering doesn't go away, then that means that everything I'm doing along that line, the whole of myself, is basically defined by a nature that believes it knows what it needs in order to be free. And I don't know how long it takes for individuals. I know it took me, like, seems forever to realize that that's a dead end. That line is actually a circle. It's not just something that runs off horizontally. It's actually bent by time and space, and it actually makes a circle. And that's where a person comes back over and over and over again to sitting in their home, driving in their car, talking on the phone, whatever it is. Somebody says something happens, and boom, I don't want that, I want this, or I want this and I don't want that. Because when I see something I don't want, I believe my suffering is based on what's that doing. So I figure if I can just not do that, I won't suffer. Or I'm suffering because I want something so badly, but I can't get it. And then I do get it, and then I find out the suffering doesn't go away. It's built into a level of consciousnness that we have no awareness of at all. And that consciousness uses every last part of our life, our energy. Mm-hmm. It is literally spent all the time in a series of reactions that we have no idea are taking place. Because when I want something, it never dawns to me that that prior to me wanting that, I have to have not wanted something else. So I'm on a kind of a treadmill, and that treadmill is driven, and all of the energy that goes into that motion does nothing to change me at all. It drives the world into what the world is, but it doesn't change my consciousness whatsoever. So what's that mean? That means that I am once and for always, at least until something happens where this dissatisfaction reaches such a point that I just understand, you know what? I don't want, the last thing that I want to do here is to suffer myself. I don't want anything to do with it. And I believe that if I can imagine a time when I won't suffer, I'll be free of my suffering. But I've been imagining a time when I won't suffer for a million years. Mm-hmm. And no matter what I do, the suffering remains in place. And if that's true, which it is, what does it mean? It means that I have to have a completely different relationship with that crucible of the moment where I want something because I don't want it. There is built into wanting and not wanting, built into the very fabric of that consciousness, a central conflict. Because when I want something, I can't want something without not wanting something. When I don't want something, I can't have it without what I do want. They are built together. Everybody understand that? We've talked about that. There's a central conflict. We called it a rock and a hard place, didn't we? So what I'm talking about, and intend to talk in great depth over the weekend of the talks, is that what if all that energy could be used for something else? All that energy that is just released and just released and released, so that the want and not want are always apart from each other. But what if a man or a woman, understanding that that's a dead end, that that's a track, realize that, then there they would be, and here comes the fear. I got to do something. I'm inadequate. How do I handle this? I'm anxious. Here, all of it comes again. And I actually see in that moment that I'm suffering, but my suffering is telling me that I can stop suffering if I just escape into time, go back into the past when things were better, go into the future when I've got everything worked out. And then instead of allowing that consciousness that is time itself to define me and tell me how to escape itself, I remain in that crucible. All of that energy is available. It's right in every moment, to tell you the truth. And it's when we stay in that energy, not moving left, not moving right, not wanting, but observing all of that. All of that energy is released. And it's released into another order of consciousness that waits like a bubble over the whole of oneself, so that the task for that man or woman begins. What's that old saying? To be or not to be?
Mm-hmm.
How about to feed or to see? That's the question. Mm-hmm. To feed or to see? Because I've fed him like it's like an animal. Mm-hmm. I've fed the beast my whole life. That's all I've ever done. Whatever it wants, okay, just feed it. And then one day you realize that what you have been feeding has grown into something that owns your life. And it does. It literally owns your life. But when it is taking your life, it isn't saying I'm taking it. It's saying I'm giving you a life with the next thing that I promise will make you pleased with yourself and everyone else. So that energy that's in the midst of that conflict, that in the middle of every reaction, I'm dedicated to something and suddenly something goes all wrong. What happens when things go wrong in your life? What's the first thing that happens? Anything.
Just resist it.
Resistance,
try
and
to
then
change other
out,
people.
that's right. Out of
a plan.
First resistance,
mm-hmm.
and then a new want.
Right. Right.
Isn't it? I'm asking the kids here. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Resistance, new want. And then the new want turns out to be the basis of the next thing that I resist. Mm-hmm. Because that part of myself is completely conditionally dependent. Who I am is dependent upon what I have imagined. My identity is dependent upon what I have imagined. Mm-hmm. But what I've imagined, the conditions necessary to produce this change in me, I can't control the conditions. So the conditions go through their iteration, which they're going to do independent of what I want. And when they go through that, I'm going to be left again with another want, another I. This is so hard to explain because we think we're some unified creature. Nothing in a human being that's asleep is unified. Nothing. He or she is a string of individual I's produced by individual wants and not wants, and the conditions that determine whether they're fulfilled or denied. And every time the condition changes and the want is fulfilled or denied, instantaneously, a seamless stream where I went from this person, now I'm that person. I have no awareness of who I am now because I've been what's the word I want? I've been lifted out of one I and dropped into another. And then it just goes on forever. And it does quite literally go on forever. That's the story of human consciousness. There is a possibility that a person can start to see that I can't count the times that I find myself being afraid. Can't count the times I find myself angry or anxious. You can't count them. It's on a daily basis. Yes or no?
Yeah.
And then one day you're getting ready to do that, and you'll hear a thought. If you've done any work, you'll say, is this who I want to be? Mm-hmm. And really the question is this what I want to be? Do you understand? And when you're angry, you never hear a question that says, is this what I want to be? What you hear is, here's what I need to do to change what's probably. Mm-hmm. Is this who I want to be? Is this what I want to be? And if a person's honest with their answer, they understand, no, I don't. I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of looking at the screen, television, computer, the eyes of other human beings, always looking for myself, endlessly looking for myself. And then when I find what I'm looking for, then I want more of it. When I get denied, I don't want anything to do with it. And that moment that happens over and over again like that, it brings a person to a place where they actually have the experience, not the intellectual thought of it, the actual experience. I don't want to do that again. I don't want to be that again. And if I don't want to do that, and I don't want to be that again, I'm not sure who I am or what to be or what to do. And then that person who prior to that moment was suffering unconsciously suddenly has an opportunity to suffer consciously. I suffer this nature. Everybody understands, I think, at least who's here watching, I suffer my nature. My nature believes it knows what to do. And I just, I. And one day I can't. But oh my God, what is going to, I have to do something, it says, which is the equivalent of, what do I want here? Because I know what it wants. There's no question what it wants. It wants more of this, less of that, wants to go there and get away from this.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it wants. That's what it wants all the time. But I can't be it anymore. And all of that I was before had suffering in it, because the great wheel shows us over and over again that the desire, the attachment, the dependency just repeats itself. And then what have I got? Nothing. All that energy wasted. But now I'm in this moment where I can see, you know what? I don't want to be what I am right now. I don't. That moment is pivotal, because everything that has been driving the human being that he or she thought that he or she was, all of the familiar sense of oneself, the emotions, the thoughts, all of the associations, it all comes pouring up in a way that maybe for the first time a person actually becomes aware of what it is that has been defining them all along, pushing them along. Never saw it, but the first time I go, is this what I don't want to be? I don't want to be angry. I'm so tired of being afraid. So tired of having enemies. And there I am, and that's what it wants. That's what it wants. It wants to go into the past. It wants to produce a new future. And because of the dawning awareness of that consciousness that knows not itself, that man or woman has a chance to know something about that consciousness that they would never know otherwise. And then that becomes the cost. What am I willing to pay for the sake of breaking free of this line and the endless repetition of lying to myself, cheating others, doing the things that I need to do so that in one way or another I can get past that moment that I want or don't want? And there's so much energy in that moment, Kate. It's impossible to describe. But it is given to you to be able to enter into that moment. It's the heart of the talks that are coming up. It is given to you to be able to enter into what, for all intents and purposes, is a kind of nuclear reactor. Quite literally. Mm-hmm. It's very similar to the sun. So is what's produced by that energy. And you and I are created to be able to actually, instead of run from the heat, to stay in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. The capacity to remain in the presence of all that energy. And when you remain in the presence of all that energy, all that light, what do you think happens? Transformation.
So does that energy get, I don't know the right word, funneled into a different part of you that's capable of, that knows what to do with it?
No, it doesn't work quite like that. Yeah. Because see that our mind, I would use the word naturally, but it's quite unnatural. But over millennia, it's become natural. Mm-hmm. Our mind is a dualistic mind. It only knows how to think about myself and something. It's never aware of the fact that the thing it thinks about is itself, that the thinker and the thought are a single. It doesn't occur to it. So it isn't so much that that something is funneled, as it is that something that was already present is ushered into the background. Okay. So that something now broader, that you live in something broader, and the broader order of being that you enter into, the broader consciousness, is by its nature, because all orders of being are aligned. You enter into a new alignment with the living word, with the Spirit of God. You enter into a new alignment. So you're not doing anything mm-hmm. other than dying.
Mm-hmm. just that small thing.
No, you see, you think you have a choice. That's really the problem. Those of you who are well enough along the road, you actually think you have a choice. You're dying. Now, the question is, do I want to live because I'm dying? Not do I want to die to live? And there's a big difference. You started the chat by saying, we all want to go through we're all going through transformation. True enough. At the physical level,
right.
Every human being is going through transformation, which is the decimation of the body and its energies and its possibility of entering into a new realm. So that transformation that we call transformation isn't transformation at all. It's just a bus that you get on that says new destination, and it gets back to the starting point and says you've arrived. You go, well, this doesn't look that new to me. Well, look, there's a new hot dog vendor there, whatever it is. Something is new, but you're not. And one day you don't want to make another return. And not that you're brave or strong, you would just, and this is quite accurate, you would rather die than do that. And if you get that far, you actually do, to one extent, die. But you can't die. What dies is what has taken you round and round. And in one respect, it doesn't die. What dies is your relationship to it.
So instead of you moving through life, life is moving through you.
That is 100% it.
Right.
That is 100% it. The illusion is that we're walking through this world. We are not walking through this world. This world is passing through us. But until we have the proper relationship in terms of being able to observe what life is, because we're now in a unified place where we can see the movement instead of being captured by every single movement. Till we get there, we're just moved along. We're like chess pieces on the board of some troll in some cave someplace, moving stuff around.
Well, I should probably get up, but we only have like 10 minutes left. So is there anyone else who has a question or wants to come up? Anyone wants to say anything? Or you can just continue on, but I'll go back.
I didn't realize that much time had gone by. How many of you know what a lie detector is? What you need is an eye detector. So that every time something pops up, the next, oh no, whatever it is. I saw on some discovery program, I don't know what it was, some show, science show, and there was a psychiatrist, and they were doing this experiment with people, and they put them in a room by themselves, and then they would offer them questions and stuff like that, and the person would sit and answer the questions. It was quite engaged between the room where nobody could see the doctors in there and the people in these little booths. And then I forget exactly how it worked, but if somebody was in the other room and answered a question, you could give that person a shock. You could push a little button and give the other person a shock. People just love that. They couldn't get enough of shocking other people. Now, I'm probably messing this up, but the bottom line at the end was that they took away all the options except the shock button and left the people in the room by themselves with nothing to engage them at all, just quiet. And you know what they started doing? Shocking themselves. They would have rather shocked themselves than be without something to think about or do. Now that seems shocking to you, doesn't it? That's exactly where you're at. The passing of each eye comes with a shock, and the formation of the next eye is the outcome of that shock. It is the manifestation of the reaction. And we are so asleep that we would actually, as human beings, rather sit and hate, worry, be angry, be sorry. We'd actually, as long as I can be deeply immersed in some identity, I'm satisfied, even though I'm terribly dissatisfied with that state, and say to myself, I wish I wasn't like that. And one day you have to actually see that as long as you are identified with and agreeing to be in a certain state, whether you know it or not, you can say, no, I don't want to be like that. Resistance is identification. And the more you resist something, the more you're identified with it, until you actually start seeing, I'd rather be filled with what I hate than not know what to fill myself with. You get that clear in your mind, then you'll be in the place where little by little you can, as Kate and I just spent the time, or I spent the time talking about, instead of uselessly suffering over something that produces nothing but the next useless experience, I can be present enough to that moment when something is trying to formulate a new I, a new tomorrow, a new this, a new me, a new idea, a new insight. And you'll see it. You will see your own consciousness being tempted to create another identity for itself. You actually see your own consciousness being tempted to formulate a new identity. That's where the hope lies. Because when I can see I'm being tempted, meaning I can see something wants me to feel bad, wants me to worry, I can see it going on. And you know what? I've been there 100,000 times. I'm not going to do it. And then you get to experience directly that level of consciousness with no buffers between you at all. Just a direct relationship to something that you've never known you were living in and that was living your life for you. Come on up, Eric. Sure. Please. That people will be glad to see somebody else but me.
We have time, Kate?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if this relates to what you just said.
Come a little closer.
So I was out on the porch,
Yeah.
and there were suddenly 3 birds, and they were kind of diving and chasing each other.
Yeah. Mating season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They're having fun or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, that's just it. I saw it.
Right.
Then my mind said, "Oh, they're playing."
Yeah. Yes,
And
you're right.
so-
Yes, you are right about
Yes,
this. Yeah.
okay.
Go ahead.
So that's the beginning.
Yeah.
The beginning. That's the beginning of an I.
Yes.
The beginning of separation.
It is. It's
not exactly.
It's an extension of an I, because you couldn't see that and define it unless there was something in you looking for a certain pleasure out of the idea that they're playing. It's an extension of a certain level of consciousness. Go ahead.
No, that's it. I mean, I caught it to whatever extent, and part of that catching it was seeing how unnecessary. It wasn't necessary for that comment.
Perfect. That's
didn't
perfect.
need to be
Yeah.
said.
Eric didn't need to be there because something had seen the whole thing, including the commentary.
Then he was there,
And-
and the whole thing's going to be corrupted.
It is. It's already ended.
It's ended.
It's ended
And
because now you're in Eric instead of the relationship between the moment and the observer of it.
Mhm.
That's exactly right.
And 5,000 times a day, 10,000.
Oh yeah. It's yeah.
That happens. That sort of thing.
But you now have something that can see. Most people have no, what's the word I want? There's no possibility of any other relationship to the moment other than the experience of myself defining it, and therefore confining the moment to my past, to who and what I've been, which ultimately is dissatisfactory. Do you want to come up here, Debbie?
Is there time?
Yes, and then I'll come up.
Okay, come on. You can be last.
So you were talking, I think it was the Insight Timer talk this morning, where you were talking about the different birds, and that each one has a different character, and you can feel that in yourself when
yes.
you look there.
Yes.
And but to name it is what Eric was talking about. You just have to let
To
them
name it is to corrupt the moment with the content of the self.
Okay,
That's it?
that's it.
Okay, easy peasy. Thought moves, but it isn't alive. Thought moves, but it isn't alive. When you see a goldfinch or a grosbeak or a stellar jay, in the moment of that engagement, there is life. because there is a relationship between the observer and the observed, where there is a singularity, and you can tell, feel, understand something of the timidity, something of the flushed gobbler. You can get a sense of the creature that is not a creation of your own mind. But the minute that the mind gets into it and names it, now your experience isn't the creature, it's the content of your own consciousness that calls itself the creature, and you're dead in the water.
It seems like there's just constant stop, go in terms of being in life, out of life, in life, out of life.
It only seems like that because your
Right.
mind can only look at it
Right.
in stop, go. One day you'll get rid of the stop, go, because you'll understand this is going nowhere, right? I get a sense of myself, oh yeah, no, I don't. I know, yes, I don't. And that's the whole point. We want to smooth that out.
All right. Well, thank you, Guy. Thanks for the preview about what we'll be looking at in June. And that event, the Weekend of Wisdom, is June 23rd to the 25th. So come here and join us in Merlin. We have lots of fun here, don't we? Yeah.
And what you can't see out there in Facebook, Instagram, YouTube land is that there's a big sign that says applaud. Be happy. Yeah.
So yeah, we hope you'll join us. And that's one of the most transformative times of the year, right? The summer solstice.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we do it then. So hopefully you can join us. And if not, we'll actually be live streaming for free, the live talks. There's also a replay package. So go to our website. You can go to guyfinley.org/events, and you'll see that event listed, and also all the other things that we do around here. Guy, of course, speaks twice a week with the Letting Go with Guy Finley Live series. And tomorrow is our next talk, and I have the title for us here. This is at 9:30 a.m. Pacific. You can tune in. And he'll be speaking on realize the missing half of your true self and be set free. So do join us tomorrow morning. If you're already signed up for the ongoing series and you're all set, you'll get your reminder email per the usual. But if not, you can just go to guyfinley.org/class, and that will automatically take you to a page where you can sign up and get involved in that ongoing series. I think I've said it all. So apologies again for the tech issues, but the replay will be available, and we'll just keep trying to get better at that. I think that's it. Very good. Thanks, everyone. See you tomorrow. Bye. There we go.